Okay, so I have some place to be at around 9 o'clock, for which I have to shower and dress, and it's about, I don't know, 7 after 6 on a Monday, June the 19th of the year 2023. You'll most likely see this on Friday, and I figured I may as well talk about this because it's really been on my mind these past few weeks and months. And I figured I may as well share my thoughts on this particular matter with you folks. Very recently, I've been watching and rewatching a lot of the videos that I made in the year 2020. Now, the main reason why I was watching a whole bunch of those videos is because, well, that happens to be the time in which I recorded them, happens to be perhaps the most transformative in terms of my own life and also the channel, because in that year of 2020, I was living in a rented house and basically getting a start on independence. And I basically had the whole run of it unto myself, except for the master bedroom. It was basically my domain for about 6 or 7 months, from January until mid-July. And then I left the place. And, or was it June? I don't quite remember. But nevertheless, I was called back there in August and spent basically August, September, and left Halloween of that year of 2020. And so obviously that is a paramount, I suppose, achievement in life. Also, that year, I had experienced a great loss, that being of my father, on the 28th of May of that year. And obviously, I didn't post anything for about, I don't know, 4 or 5 months after that, out of grief. But perhaps maybe the most shocking revelation to me that came out of that year was that I myself, who was up to that point an unshakable atheist, had at last seen the light and come over into Christianity. Well, actually not Christianity at first, but nevertheless into a state of belief in the Lord Almighty God. And had basically started following my family's faith, Catholicism, because that was all I knew at the time. And basically studying all there was to know about it and watching videos by this one user whom I no longer watch, Catholic for Rednecks. Just had a sip of water there. And you know, I was basically enamored with the whole faith of the thing. And also during that time, I sort of was struck by the realization that of purgatory, and that, you know, you don't enter into heaven immediately as a Catholic. And so I started venturing into born-again Christianity and started following this very madcap fundamentalist by the name of Brian Denlinger, whom I believe now is called Born Again Barbarian. How apt a name is that for your channel? I mean, goodness, it's perfect, honestly. Nevertheless, and I would basically alternate back and forth between Catholicism and radical Christianity, Catholicism, radical Christianity, and basically now I'm sort of I'm a Christian who reads the Bible for himself and has his own relationship with the Lord our God, and doesn't necessarily bend to any denomination at all. You probably don't know this, but I've only been inside of a church once in my entire life. And that was basically in August of 2020. And I was going to this place called the Drake Institute, which I've talked about a little bit on the channel, but nevertheless, it was something, I suppose, to reformat the ordering of my brain or something. I don't know exactly what it was. Some or another type of therapy or whatever. I explained it once in a video, I think about Somerset Maugham, someplace or other on this channel. But nevertheless, there was a church just outside of the office, or opposite the office, and it was an Episcopal or an Anglican church. And I went in there to pray for a bit with my father's own rosary. And even though it wasn't necessarily the right denomination, because at that time I was a Catholic, I do remember feeling... Actually, I don't really remember feeling much of anything, but nevertheless, that's the only time I've ever been in a church. And if I were to go to a church, I honestly don't know which one I would go to. I personally wouldn't go to any service at all. I'd maybe just stay home and read my Bible or something of that sort, because I really don't like a lot of the way that most of these churches carry out their system of belief and such. So it's not necessarily my cup of tea. But nevertheless, those three things happened during that year. And basically, from that, I was never the same person. And really, you could argue that 2020 was the year of the biggest, that saw the biggest change in me. And to be honest with you, to see the videos from that time, you can tell. And also the videos before that, you could tell, and after that, you can tell that year it had a tremendous effect on me in some capacity or other. But the main reason why is because, all of those reasons, but also I find that particular year, not just the year in which I posted, but the year I filmed these videos, which were eventually posted later in 2021. And I still have a number of videos from that time that I'm yet to post, which are on a phone that needs to be repaired at some point, which I should probably go do. Really, all that needs to be done is that the LCD on the screen needs to be repaired, even though it already has been, but it needs to be again. So I think I'll just have my brother do that, because he's fairly good at that type of thing. I don't know. We'll see. But nevertheless, all those videos from that time I find really to be the most watchable out of anything that I've ever done up until really very recently in 2023, this current year. Because my early work from 2018 and 19 was fairly experimental. I didn't necessarily have a thoroughgoing structure to the channel then. Of course, I started doing the Snack and Story series then, which I'm thinking of revitalizing, and I'm also debating about whether I should show my face or not when I do that series, because obviously you don't want to see that ugly mug tearing into whatever it is I will be in those episodes. But nevertheless, and also I was a first-time YouTuber, so a lot of it was very crudely made, and not necessarily very professional at all. I didn't have a very good editing software at the time, and so wasn't necessarily all that good. Even though, it's nice to look back and see some of the things there, because that was the year I first met $10 Slimer, Ahab, and the Goontech, and all those people. And it's nice to reflect on that time. And so, and then basically the years after that, 2021, it had some videos from 2020 that I had made, but it was mostly I unlisted all of those videos that I did make in there pertaining to a particular subject, because, to be frank, I don't want to remember any of that, and I'm sure nobody else wants to remember any of that. And really, just to make the channel more of I suppose more for a general audience. I don't even know why I made those videos. I mean, it's good that those things should be known, and that perhaps people should break away from it, because really, it's wicked. But nevertheless, that year is so strongly associated with that I don't necessarily revisit those videos too much. And then also in that year, obviously, right now it's been 1 year, 11 months, and 5 days since my uncle had come down with this anomalous illness and started to basically live with us for the foreseeable future, as well as my grandmother, whom had been at his aid. And I have no idea what's going on there, honestly, to be honest with you. I try not to interact too much, because I'm now out here in the garage, and I'm working more than I ever have all these years. But nevertheless, and of course, because of that, I didn't post hardly anything the latter half of that year, except for 2 or 3 videos pertaining to a similar subject, and I really don't want to talk about that subject because it pertains to a latter part, another part that I really don't like to recollect, which is my state of unwellness, which was detailed heavily in the videos from 2022, most of which are unlisted right now, because I really don't like seeing myself. You could tell very much that I was disturbed in some capacity or other during those months, and I've not yet revealed at all as to how it was I became that way. I may do it one day, I may not, because really, I remember most all of it very clearly. And I don't want to, because really it was, you could call it maybe a religious experience, or maybe it's like maybe just like a metaphysical I'm not entirely sure what you'd call it. I mean, I call it, to be frank with you, an ecstatic breakdown, because I wasn't nervous. I was overly happy and overly confident. And well, that's all I'll say about it, because I really don't want to talk about it all that much. Nevertheless, so the videos from that time, all those time, 2021 and 22, are basically tainted with all the things that I've been suffering through, and I don't necessarily want to remember too much about them. So that's why I don't necessarily prefer those. And then late 2022, the early to basically now, 2023, is sort of, I would say, about average, in a sense, because, I've done a few book reviews. I got back into book reviews after about 2 years of not posting one, with Stephen King's Revival and that one book, In the Winter Dark, I think it was called, by Timothy Dalton. Not Timothy Dalton. What's his name? Some Australian writer. Tim Winton, that's his name. Imagine that. Nevertheless, which I hated. And Stephen King's revival, though, was good. But nevertheless. And I'd also done some more videos during that time of more thoroughgoing introspection. For instance, I have a video. I'm not sure if anybody's watched this. I know Joseph Logsden, my writer friend on here, has seen it, and also Johnny Keane, whom I follow, who is a Christian himself, has seen it. But if you haven't seen it already, it's a video. Basically, I call it the things I miss most about being an atheist. And it basically details my past life to some degree or other, and how really some of the things that you lose when converting to Christianity really are the things you miss the most. And really, they're not enticements back to the lost world, but nevertheless, they sort of they are missed, nevertheless. And really, despite how important they may have been to you, ultimately, there's nothing really that would come to compete with the life you live now. Then that would be retrieved from the life that was lived then. And then also, I've done more book-related stuff recently. I showed my Barnes and Noble books and such, and also have given updates on the library and all that. And I've also done some pocket watch-related videos, which I had acquired a new one, an Elgin pocket watch, but the only thing about that was I was in the middle of making I know I still have to make this video, basically a guide as to which pocket watch would be the best for everyday use. And it's a very detailed, in-depth video in which I give some of the history and some of the, I guess, aesthetics and mechanics of certain watches, and even their prices as to how much you could spend on them at whichever site. But the reason why that is sort of on hold is because I acquired this Elgin for my birthday, and it worked very well for about a month. And then I had messed around and put it on a pile of clothes, underneath a pile of clothes, and I had to go somewhere, and I didn't realize it was there. I took up the clothes in my hands, and basically the thing fell, and the balance staff is broken. And so I have to get that repaired, and that's basically the reason why I haven't been able to post that video, though I know, or complete it anyway. But anyhow, I need to really get that repaired so I can finish it, because Michael Keller has been asking as to which pocket watch would be best for everyday use, because he recently come out of surgery and was thinking of using one. And obviously I've gotten back into basically album reviews. I've done all of Gentle Giant's albums, talked about them. And really, this year has sort of been a resurgence into what made my channel so unique back then. And pretty much, I wouldn't say it's on par with my work from 2020, but nevertheless, it's very good, I would say. But as I said, the reason why, personally, I think 2020 was my best year for videos is because, as I said, they're the most watchable to me, and you could tell that I had more time to myself, and that I had more opportunities to speak clearly and freely and just unreservedly on certain things, even though I spoke unreservedly about many things before and since that point, but especially so because I had my own space. Nobody would come and bother me up there unless, of course, it was a weekend and everyone would come down, or my brother would come down, and we would do whatever and also during that time, I had sort of regressed into childhood because that was the year in which I posted the Fair Game Snack in a Story, which, to be frank, is probably my best snack in a story because uh, I recollected basically this time when I had seen a flip note on Flipnote Hatana or Hantana, I forget the name of it, but it was this one service on the DSi, Nintendo DSi, that was sort of like a proto-social media sort of sharing platform where you drew things and put audio over them. A lot of people did ones of Mario characters over Family Guy audio or something, and there were others that were basically taking famous YouTube videos of the day and putting their own spin on it. And there were even completely original ones that I remember quite well. But perhaps the most famous variety of these flip notes was the music video ones, in which they take a certain song and overlay it with visuals of whichever character singing said song, or just visuals that sort of related to the song at hand. And there were hundreds, if not thousands, of these things that were made. I don't know exactly how many of them were made, but nevertheless, I had remembered seeing one back in the day that was set to this one song, either called Magic Melody or Darkness and Magic, by this Belgian techno group called THC or DMX, not DMX, or TCH, I don't remember, or DCH, I don't remember the name of the group, but nevertheless, this Belgian techno group, and it was set to, I guess, visuals of Rouge the Bat from the Sonic the Hedgehog games. And I remember being very, almost lewdly fascinated with that flip note. And I think I was either 9 or 10 when I first saw that. And I believe it was at my cousin's house. And ever since then, I've been trying desperately to search for it. And I've even made a whole series. That's another thing that I did in 2020. I made a whole series which is basically on hiatus because, once again, all those installments are on that phone that I need to have repaired. A whole series basically searching for it called the DSi files, in which I acquired a DSi and tried my best at tracking it down. I've gotten actually pretty far along in the journey. I'm not quite there yet, but I've gotten pretty well along into this whole journey of discovery of this flip note. But nevertheless, and then obviously, basically, as I said, I had more time under myself, and I really, as I said, it was probably the most important year of my life, basically, because also at the time, I was reading up on various tips and tricks as to how to get into voiceover acting, because I related in that particular video, or that particular year, in a snack and a story, about how I was turned out of a voiceover acting course at a particular institution because, well, for stupid reasons, really. Mainly because they didn't want to put up with me and such, and I basically became very demoralized and all that, didn't pursue it for 2 years, and I was reading up various texts that I downloaded from PDFs. I still have them somewhere, and it seemed like a year of great change and progress that would eventually come my way, really. But nevertheless, it's fun to go back and look at myself during that time, because really that it can be, I suppose you could say that that was really the only time in recent memory that I was truly genuinely happy. Because, as I said, I was living in a rented house on my own, living by my own rules pretty much, except, of course, I had to look after a deaf and blind dog for the first 6 months, and then the second term I was there, they'd taken it with them, so I just had the house to myself. But nevertheless, I was living on my own terms. I was writing on my own terms, reading. I read a lot during that time too. And there was also this particular walk that I would go on. There was an hour and a half long, and I loved that. I missed that walk, man. I mean, it was about maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 miles. And I was just alone to my thoughts, and I would have my music in my ears, and it was just completely wonderful. I would walk it either in the very early mornings before sunup, or in the very early evenings, just as the sun at sunset, pretty much. And it was wonderful. And I just really, that time for me is very nostalgic for me. I am aware that 2020 wasn't necessarily the greatest year for many people. It wasn't even the greatest year for me, to be honest with you, because obviously I lost my father and such. But nonetheless, I am glad that I do have a record of it, of my time there. That does betray a certain air of positivity and just warmth in my life. And that, in my estimation, is why I think 2020 is perhaps my best year of videos. The best year I've made videos in general. Although this recent year has been fairly good, I don't think anything will even begin to compete with 2020, or even videos that were made in 2020 that are yet to be posted to this channel, because, as I said, my vault is very extensive and is yet to be opened. So hopefully here soon I'll be able to open it, and you folks will be able to see just all I've made over these years. So that is it. I will be off to the shower here in just a few moments. Once I get this video together in my editing software, and basically I'll be on my way after that. I wish you a very good morning, midday, afternoon, evening, midnight, whenever you plan on seeing this video, and we will see you here very soon. Also, let me know what you think about this particular topic, and if you think 2020 is my best year for videos, or even if you have another choice as to which is my best year for videos, in your honest opinion. Cheers.